All right. Yep, just waiting for some people to hop on.
I'm I'm completely crazy here. Let's see what he said. I can't take this week. I might can this weekend, but I can't take midday heat. Are you available Friday, Saturday, Sunday for early or late day tide? I haven't looked at the tides. It's hot all day. What you talking about? There ain't no cool part of the day that I'm aware of. Are you?
No, no, not at all.
It starts off hotter. I think it's better in the afternoon because you get a breeze.
Yeah.
Cause I was roasting out there. I was fixing to quit when I started, and then I started calling trout. But what I was trying to do is find them out there deep, trying to bounce the grub. I couldn't get a bite of any kind because it was so slick. And every time you picked it up, you had two pieces of grass on it, not one. Have you now do you you and
Hey
I?
everyone, welcome to the Big Ben Fishing Report. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm sorry we're running a little late today. Um, Someone lost track of time, myself. But yeah, Pat and I were just talking. We kind of went live a little early, and we were just having a little sidebar conversation about some current conditions. Um, so, Pat, how's it been for you?
Well, I went yesterday, and about an hour after the tide started in, we had the water started moving good. I pulled out there in about 7 feet of water, caught four, lost one good one. I tried to swing in the boat without netting, and saw two more good fish that didn't for whatever reason didn't have the bait. But I was working two rods at once, so I was missing as many as I was catching. Um, then after that drift, they all seemed to be short, so I moved over to a little hump that again goes. It was probably 5.5 on top of it, but was seven around it, and I caught two and missed one. Um, I was real excited when I first left the beach. When I came off the channel markers, I saw
Randy?
four schools of bait. And by the time I got to Deagle Rack, but then I never saw another school after that. But it was slick and hot until that tide really started to move, and then we got a good tide movement.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
need me to
we
move?
we just gonna have her back that up a little bit. Take the whole thing back right there, and then angle it up. Yeah, we haven't had the bait this year that
No,
we normally do.
no. And I was getting excited, thinking I would see more bait, and I didn't. Um, had a
Mhm.
shark about 6 foot decide to take a trout away from me, and I got it. I got him between the trout and me. We got it away from him, but he bit him or slashed him four times. An 18.5 inch trout. It wasn't a little one. He was after, and but I saw one more
sorry about that. I didn't realize I hit no audio. So I don't know where it cut out. I'm sorry, guys. Let me go back. Now the camera's cutting out because my phone. See what's going on here.
Nope.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. Anyways, we got audio now. But we were talking about the gar. You know, that gar was 2 miles out. The water's hot. Everything's pushing out. The redfish bite has been on fire. Yeah, it says there's live feed and audio. But that 30-inch redfish that guy caught. So Joel called me. Joel was going to get his new offshore boat that he's fixing to start running trips out of. Well, this guy wanted to book a last minute trip.
Wait a minute. Offshore is in snapper and grouper?
Yeah. Like 30-something foot contender.
Okay.
So he said, look, is there any way you can help me out? I was already booked that morning. I'm like, man, I don't want to run a double in this heat, but yeah, I'll take him. So guy gets on the boat. I asked him, so what hand do you reel with? He said, I reel upside down. I said, oh boy. I said it out loud. I said, oh boy, I see how this is going to go. I said, you learned that from Joel? And so I told him, I said, we're going to start out catching redfish. When the tide gets right, we're going to jump out and catch trout. And we did. We got in there. We caught redfish. And we were throwing gold spoons. He said he never caught one on a gold spoon. I said, all right, we're going to go catch trout. He said, I've never caught a trout. I said, never caught a trout. I said, you've been fishing with Joel and you never caught a trout? No. Joel took me trout fishing and all we caught was catfish.
You couldn't have paid him better to say it.
Man, it was hilarious. Joel has a different story, but I told him, I said, I am going to tell Joel about this.
Oh, don't you wish you'd taped it? Oh my God.
So we went out there, we caught trout, and I didn't even take live bait. We caught them on gulp under a popping cork, and we caught our limit of trout and redfish that day. Went back the next day, and I said, you know what? We caught them so good on gulp, I'm not even going to stop and get bait. We caught them again on gulp, and so let's see. There's a picture of my live well right there. You see all the reds, trout,
that's
sea bass.
That's a nice mess.
So then we went back. I had another trip. The guys that they went with you for years, and we're
Homerville group.
Yeah, we're training a dog for him. So when he brought his dog, he said, "Hey, you got room to fish?" I said, "Yeah, we can fish."
Is it James Landrum?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we went out, and there's our fish. We got ran off by a storm. If we'd have had 30 more minutes, we'd had our limited trout. But when we went out there, we started out red fishing with gold spoons. We got our reds fairly quick. We ran out to trout fish, and I had some pinfish, and one guy was using pinfish, and
Curtis.
Yes, the rest were using gulp.
Mm-hmm.
And he caught. Don't get me wrong, he caught trout on pinfish, but whenever we ran out of pinfish because my trap got robbed, he switched to gulp, and we were catching them nonstop. I was using new penny gulp under a popping cork, about a 30-inch leader, and we were in about 4.5 feet of water.
Well, the best thing I want to interrupt you there. It was right when I started. I mean, when it's on, I don't think it matters what you're throwing.
No.
If you got a clear enough water to throw past plastic, I believe you could, because every time I put the cork in the water with 2 rods, it went down for 45 minutes. Now, there were shorts, mixed in there, and a couple of ladyfish jumped off. But, yeah, when it's on, you need to be ready, and you don't need to be goofing around or having a sandwich. You need to fish, because when it's on, it's bang, bang, bang.
And I can tell you this. I'm not catching near the shorts that I was, but what I'm doing, when I start getting into those shorts, I'm moving. I'm getting out of there.
Right. Well, I think the bite from the bigger fish happens, and then when they back down, the little ones take over. And so you got to move on to a next spot where those fish are just triggering.
Yeah. And, I told you I caught all those fish with them. I went back to that same area the next day and nothing. What the heck? And normally they don't move real far, but I bounced around. I said, all right, screw it. They're not going to eat. I just assumed they weren't eating. I said, well, let's go catch some redfish. And I moved to where I thought the redfish were, and they were there. We caught our redfish, and then it was trout. And they were all 17 to 19 inches. I mean, just good trout. And
that's a bad problem to have.
Why they moved in, I don't know. I mean, the water's 94 degrees.
Well,
which today it was cooler. Today the water was.
It didn't bother them yesterday, and it was hot. Good God, it was hot. But when that breeze started, it was nice. That's why I kept moving around out there when it was slick, bouncing a grub looking for some blackfish, and they just weren't swinging at it when that water was sitting still.
Yeah, now this morning I had a scallop trip, and we got delayed because of weather. And once the lightning cleared out, it was still raining, but we went out there and we got them. And then the guy says, "Hey, I only have an hour." I'm like,
"You mean an hour left?"
He had to leave in an hour.
Oh.
By the time when we left the dock and we headed out, he said, we have to head back in an hour.
Well, you're about 30 minutes from your scallop, aren't you?
So we ran out there. It was just one person. So we got his 2 gallons and headed back in. But the water was down to 86 degrees.
I'll be damned. Well, it rained for an hour solid. Because I was pulling yesterday. Yeah.
This morning.
This morning, I was pulling a battery out of my boat, or putting a battery back in. And I sat there in the car for 1 hour and 12 minutes before I decided to go get the rain suit and go ahead and stick the battery in the boat.
Well, we pulled away from my dock at I think it was 8:45, 9 o'clock, and we started heading down the canal or out the channel. Or out the canal, and I looked at the sky and said, "Ooh." So some friends of mine, they have a house rented for this week, and I just pulled over there to that house, and we got up underneath there because they were going out too, and we were just going to run together. And I said, "Well, it looks like it's going to clear out about an hour." He said, "Yeah, that's what I was just looking at." An hour went by, it was still raining, and it just built up.
Mm-hmm. I was down there,
and finally I looked at it. I said, "Well, the red and yellow's gone. It's green." I said, "If you're comfortable going, I'll go." And he said, "Let's do it. We got an hour." All right. We got out there and we were in about 2.5 feet of water, and the water temp was 86. 2 days ago it was 94.
Well, that's what that rain did. Is it knocked it down?
Yep. That's what we've been needing.
Right.
But what's that going to do? It's going to move fish around again.
It'll move the food, so it'll move the trout.
Yep. So my advice is make some long drifts. And
well, don't expect to catch fish much shallower than you got to be close to some 6 and 7 foot water is what I think. I mean, you can catch them shallower, but you need to be adjacent to a break. You need to be close to a break where there's 7 or 8 feet of water. I am convinced that when the tide moves, that cooler water comes and sweeps up on that 5, 6, whatever you got, and then they start feeding. And I think it may be temperature related as much as the salinity. But
yeah, I've been catching most of mine in that 4 to 6 feet range.
Well, when I started yesterday, the water was clear. I mean, it was clear, clean looking, clear. It did not stain. And when I moved into that stain and caught that larger fish in the red. But that water was pretty clear out there, and they still fed.
Yeah, and I think that's the key to what I was telling you the other day when I moved into redfish. I moved into more stain. There was more stain in than there was out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think that was the key.
That water was hotter too, where it was stained.
Yeah. I didn't expect to catch the trout. In fact, we got in there, and I thought it was going to be on fire. The water was boiling. I mean, just stuff blowing up on it, and this is what it was. But
hey, he's fun.
Oh yeah, but what was under those?
Well, you reds.
Were those? If you could get below the jacks, the reds were there, which means there's bait there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this guy here, that was the buddy to the one that fished with Joel that said he'd
upside down and catfish.
That was his very first redfish.
He went with Joel and didn't catch a redfish.
No, this guy didn't. This guy didn't. The other guy did.
Okay. And Joel is getting an offshore boat to go catch catfish.
Offshore? Yeah.
Okay. I hear they're bigger offshore.
They might be. Yes, I mean, that's scalloping. I haven't ran many trips, but what I have ran has been really good.
Since the 4th, they didn't run them off your area?
No.
Good.
They weren't in there.
Oh, they weren't there before?
No, the people didn't make it to where I've been
the people
going.
Didn't make it there. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so for now, I got it.
Right.
Yeah. Eventually, someone will see me and kind of like the red fishing.
Well, you ought to take your John boat scalloping that your little green boat. Then they never know who you are.
That's true. Yep. The boys are wanting. Well, I say the boys are wanting to go. My oldest, he turned 18 today, and he grew up on the water. He used to go to Daytona all the time surfing. Now all of a sudden he's terrified of sharks and gators. I mean, he swam around all of them all his life. You know what it is? Social media.
Right.
He gets on that TikTok and Instagram and it's Shark Week and everything shark. And all the people trying to scare the scalpers from coming to our area talking about the sharks. Sharks have always been here.
Oh, yeah. I've been here 33 years, and until the Bethea girl got bit, that's the first time anyone's ever been even so much as brushed up against, and much less bit, and really attacked. And she was attacked. But, these other events going on where these people are in the water and it's rough and it's undertow and all, that's when you get bit. The latest one on TV, the guy was fishing for him and got bit by the one he caught.
Yep.
And they put it on the news as a shark attack.
Yeah.
He caught him and brought him boatside and got bit by him I don't know what he was doing, but it's not. I mean, I'm not trying to say it's about the sharks, but it's not all attacks. It's accidental. They bite you by accident. 99% of it is not deliberate.
No, the guy that I took this morning, he dives a lot. He lives in the Keys. He lives in Isla Mirada, kind of Isla Mirada, Key Largo area. But so he dives those areas all the time, and we got to talking about it. And he said there's the sharks there are actually learning what the sound of a spear gun is. He said you shoot a fish, that shark is coming. He said it's not about the blood. You could miss the fish. They hear that spear gun go off, they're coming. But, and I will say, last time I was down there, we were yellowtail snapper fishing. And, have you ever done that?
Mm-hmm.
You put a chum bag out, and those fish come to the surface, and it was crazy. We had the chum slick out, and there was just hundreds and hundreds of yellowtail on it, and there were about 8 lemon sharks circling those fish. They would not go after those yellowtail until they were hooked.
That's right.
So you had to crank your drag down all the way and reel in just as fast as you could
to land one.
Mm-hmm. But
the kudas will do the same thing.
Oh yeah.
The kudas will do exactly the same thing. They'll do the same thing if you chum up mangoes out here.
Mm-hmm.
If a kuda or shark shows up, you might as well quit chumming and let your snapper go back down and then Sometimes the shark will go away. Most of the time they stay.
So Mike King said might be off subject, but killed them Saturday on Bass Assassins Bubble Gum Saturday, 8 feet.
Where were you fishing, Mike? Over at your water or back over toward Keaton?
Yeah, luckily I have not had to get anywhere near 8 feet yet.
Well, like I said, I started out there in 10, 11, 12, bumping my way up the coast because I intended to fish up there on just the other side of Warrior. And but anyway, got a I couldn't get a bite, but I couldn't bounce a grub without getting grass on it.
Yeah, that floating grass is the worst I've seen in a long time.
I've never seen as big a rafts as there were up there for miles.
Yes.
I mean, there were rafts of grass that were a half a mile long and a quarter mile long, and there were 50, 60 of them like that. I've never seen that much grass ever. That
global warming.
nah.
You're gonna have to buy a Tesla, Pat.
Hmm?
You're gonna have to buy a Tesla.
Am I? Maybe I just get a scooter. Can you tow a kayak behind a scooter legally? Because that's about all it would pull.
You get one of them little electric bikes.
You reckon it'll pull a
Get
kayak?
a little aluminum trailer.
Well, you get the first one, I'll get the second one.
I've got 3 kayaks at the house if you need one.
Okay. I'm good to know. I'll ask my knee if it wants to do that.
But yeah, so I've been Mike King said Osceola water dark tea.
Okay.
That makes sense.
All right.
Yeah,
The water at Osceola is a lot cooler than ours.
it is.
It's sometimes 10 degrees cooler.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I was talking to Brent Woodard, and he said the water's super hot in Cedar Key. He said the bite's been tough.
I'm fixing to say his bite's probably tough.
He's been running a long ways, trying to find some cooler water down around Waukesha.
Did his red fishing ever get any better?
He a little bit, but it's still so hot, and they fish a little different than I do.
Yeah.
I rarely cut mullet on the bottom.
Yeah, he likes to put that power pole down and soak a piece of ladyfish or mullet.
Yeah, it's now I have used ladyfish before. I'm not gonna say I haven't. I've caught trout on cut ladyfish, but
ladyfish is a great red snapper bait for you folks that don't know it. Red snapper love it, and it stays on the hook as good about as any other bait.
Yeah, it's But I was gonna say, as far as assassin goes, we threw my favorite watermelon slice. We caught fish on them. Laguna shrimp and pink ghost have been the 3 colors I've been using.
Well, I didn't try after bouncing out there. I did catch one short trout. I forgot about him on Stinky Pink, but he was way down the coast in front of Deacle in 12 feet of water.
Were you weren't targeting trout in 12 feet, were you?
I wasn't asking them first. I just bounced it. Whoever bit it got. That's what I was targeting.
I didn't know if you were out there.
I was trying to catch a blackfish or two, but
that's what I figured.
But you couldn't. Like I said, the second time you pumped it, you had a piece of grass on it. So, and there was no tide, so you couldn't get a setup. You couldn't get the grub to bounce back right. If you don't have some current, you don't get a line to drop it on, and they won't swing at it. I don't know why.
Yeah, Steve Black is asking what depth we. So as far
my
as
trout were in 6.5 going to 5.5, and really better at about 7 going to 6. I did catch some it was 6 something. If I got to 5 something, when I did, that's when I started catching shorts. I turned around and put another keeper in the box out there at 7. By then it was 7.5.
Yeah, and I've been catching them pretty much I've been drifting kind of 6 feet to 5 and catching them there, and then from 5 to 4 kind of goes dead, and then in that 4 foot range I catch them again. This last week I've been catching the bigger fish in that 4.5.
Well, now is that because you're fishing the incoming tide, and that's when those the 4 foot turn on? Where would it be where you started? Are you 2 feet later?
Yeah, it was incoming tide.
You're 2 feet later, but so the fish are still up there in shallow water.
Oh yeah,
they just won't feed until it peaks out on them.
Right.
Well, that's what that hump did for me on the red and the trout. And I slid off of it and tried 6, 7, 7, 7, 7. Didn't do it. Went back up there and bang, caught another fish.
Now reds, I'm catching anywhere from a foot of water to 4 feet of water.
They're scattered because of the heat, and there's nothing to eat.
But I'm finding some schools. I'm not finding the schools that I typically find this time of year. I'm not finding giant schools.
Because you don't have any bait to sustain them.
Right. But I am getting on schools of, 10, 15 fish, maybe 20.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not seeing the big, massive schools that I normally see this time of year.
I'm not surprised. Did you see any more tarpon?
Yes. And we did catch one cobia. What day was that? Saturday. We caught one cobia. We weren't targeting them. It was just a bycatch.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in 3.5 feet of water.
They've been as scarce this year as I can ever recall.
Yeah, last year I brought 14 keepers back to the hill. This year,
you're the reason. Then you wiped them out.
This year I haven't caught one keeper, but I also didn't target them this year like I did last year. We did get on one triple tail and lost it this week, but I'm not seeing the triple tail that I normally see. Normally this time of year I'm catching triple tail, but they're just. I think Brent's caught 4 keepers this year, I think is what he told me.
Wow, that's low for him.
Yeah.
That's really low for him.
Well, I mean, I'm having some really good trout and redfish days. Redfish has been the most consistent for me. So, hey, Jason Johnson. But yeah, now I've been catching almost all of my redfish on Gold Spoons. But what's crazy is I've taken Johnson spoons, I've taken Aqua Dream, and I will catch 10 to 1. Let me rephrase that: 10 to none. I've tried to force that Johnson spoon for the last month and can't give it to a redfish. I don't know why.
Well, it's a totally different action.
It is.
It's a totally different lure. It really is. You don't throw a chatterbait, do you?
Yes, I have caught some on chatterbaits.
But then, like I said, they probably hit a jig spinner too. They probably hit a Redfish Magic or a Thunder Spin or a Spot Remover or any of those. What I call a glorified beetle spin. That's what the jig spinner is, just a big beetle spin. Because the jig head is not attached permanently to the shaft. It's free swinging. And that makes the whole thing shake more and puts out more vibration. That's why the beetle spins are so popular in saltwater and freshwater.
And if we happen to get a wind out of the east or north, I am still catching them on topwater. When I can throw it.
I had a charter where I pulled up and I found a buddy of mine, Bert Diener, built it, and I found a chatterbait mixed in with some stuff, and I resharpened the hook and threw it out there, and I said, "There he is here," and I handed the guy the rod, and it was a catfish. I ate the chatterbait instead of a red. He was about 2 pounds.
We caught a big sailcat the other day on topwater.
Oh yeah, they'll eat at topwater when it's hot.
Yep.
I didn't, knock on wood, I hadn't caught a catfish but that one in like 3 trips I caught one. They
I
have
haven't
been
caught many. When I do catch one, it's a slack tide.
right, right. Well, that's shark and cobia and flounder and catfish. They're all slack feeders.
I seen Bubba's board full of flounder.
He gigged those.
I figured that.
Yeah, he gigged the flounder, but they caught those some nice trout and reds.
Yeah. Yeah, it's if you can bear the heat, the fish are there.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday I had a group book me for an 8-hour trip, and I told him when he called me, don't book an 8-hour trip. And I told him, I said, do not. I said, if anything, book a 4, and if you want to stay till 6 hours, we'll stay. But I knew them, and I knew we got 4.5 hours into the trip. We had 4 redfish and I think 12 trout, and they were like, we're done.
We're done. You were on the Zona fishing show. We're done. That's what he always says when he stops.
I'm gonna be honest, I was done. I went home and I crashed. It was hot. It's been hot.
Well, like I said, you don't want to go on a day where they say 5 mile an hour and 1 foot or less. That's when you need to go offshore.
Well, that's how it was that Saturday. And we, like I said, we got on them. It took me, so we were out there 4.5 hours, and it took me probably 2 hours to find those fish. So then we caught.
Or it took 2 hours before they decided to bite. You don't.
That's true.
You don't know.
That's true.
You're not positive.
I just, maybe I just moved there at the right time.
Well, you do that frequently. You know what you're doing. The average person coming down here thinks they can just move without changing where they're fishing and how deep it is and how far they are from the hill. I think the distance off from the hill has more to do with that dissolved oxygen and whether or not they'll feed than anything. I think that water that's moving and exchanging every tide, which is about 2 miles off of 3, is what those trout are looking for. The reds, he can live in a sewer pipe. He's just a glorified catfish.
Yeah, I mean, I've caught reds, pretty far up the Swanee River. Same thing with tarpon. I mean,
yeah, they're not picky, and they don't require as much dissolved oxygen as a trout does. It's just like comparing a snook to a trout. That snook can't stand what that trout can stand, and that trout can't stand what that red can stand, as far as lack thereof.
right.
But well,
and one thing, the area that I moved to, like you talked about earlier, there was some contour change,
mm-hmm.
and we were on just at the beginning of the incoming tide, and I said, I've got to find some water movement. I'm not getting any bites. I got to do something. So I went to an area where I knew there was some contour change, and I said, well, this is going to force some water movement in this area, kind of like pulling up to an oyster bar or the mouth of a creek
Mm-hmm.
at a tide change. It's going to move there first before it will on a big open flat.
That's right.
So I went to a spot where there's contour change, and we were getting the bites.
It's a pinch in the hose. If you pinch the hose, the water goes faster.
Yep. And what A-Man said, hey guys, how's it going? Just leaving fishing club meeting. He was meeting with Joel to learn how to catch
catfish. Club, the Catfish Club, yep. Are y'all meeting down at the Osceola River store again? No, he's talking about North Florida Gulf Fishing
Oh, yeah.
Club.
Yeah.
In Tallahassee, some great folks. Great folks.
Oh, yeah.
Is their tournaments over? They're July. I think they're done. I don't think they'll go out there this hot.
What has been nice, the good thing about scallop season?
Don't say it. Just don't say it.
Good thing about scallop season?
I wasn't going to bring it up. I didn't see a boat. I didn't see a boat the whole time I was out. And I was out from 12:45 to I quit at 4:15. and I didn't see a boat. I loved it.
Tallahassee, no Joel, the tournament in Carabel. Yeah, I seen a boat one day. It was the person I took the day before, and they were at the spot where we caught 13. I think it was 13 redfish.
What? They were. You mean you took him fishing and he was on your spot the next
The
day?
next morning.
Did you invite him to go to it?
No,
Oh,
but
yikes!
it was wrong tide. He was there on the wrong tide, and
So
wind direction was different.
so he didn't learn much. He just learned where.
But here's the thing: I showed him on the chart the day before. I showed him the tide curve, the reason why I was where I was at, when the fish were going to bite, and how I approached the. I was teaching him. Next day, he was right there in that spot, and
Well,
I was about 500
You're
yards
too
away.
nice. You're too nice. You can't be that nice.
Next day, he was at that same spot, and I was about 400 or 500 yards away. We were reeling him in every cast.
Well, so you gave up two spots, one day and one the next.
No, because I sat there and watched him.
Come on.
I sat there and watched him, not catching fish. Idles by me, staring at the boat, and I could tell he was frustrated, and he took off out of sight, and then we started catching him.
Man, please. Well, it takes all kinds, is what my daddy used to say. You know what I said? Yeah, Daddy, but why did they all have to get on my boat? Takes all kinds to make a world.
Oh, yeah.
What's he saying?
A-Man said Finn Holloway ramp's been packed lately. I wouldn't know. I know the Keaton ramp's been packed.
Weekends, yeah.
Yeah.
There wasn't too many of them wanting it this morning when it rained 2 inches.
No. Terry Griggs said Kenny taught me how to fish chatterbait. Never used one until I fished with him. Now I have several in my tackle box. And Mike King says, Michael, were you catching catfish? I'm pumped.
Mike's fished with him. With Mayman, so they've had some good trips together.
Oh, yeah. So I have a trip Thursday morning. They want to catch sail cats. Well, let me rephrase that. One of them wants to catch sail cats.
Did you teach them that? Is this a repeat trip that you taught them to catch?
They went with Joel before.
Come on now. You got one that wants to catch. You won't be able to catch one.
No.
If they want to.
No. I wouldn't even know how to target one.
Yeah, you would. You use ladyfish at slack time.
Yeah, that's true. So Tim Wright says, how deep are scallops? Depends on where you go and who you ask.
And what time you go.
Yeah, what time you go, what tide you go. This morning we were getting them in 2.5 feet of water. Earlier Brandon said he's been getting them in 7 feet of water. Personally, I like deeper water. I like that 5 to 7 feet with me personally, but with clients, most of the time I try to find the shallow spots. But there's plenty out there; they're all over the place. I will say this: I have seen more FWC presence out there this year, which I'm glad of, but there's still more idiots than I've ever seen. I don't. It's got me to the point where I don't care if I go scalloping ever again.
Is that dangerous?
It's idiots.
They driving too close or what?
Oh yeah,
planed off.
Yeah, planed off. There was a guy in a fountain, literally ran through every boat, zigzagging through the boats on plane in a 30-something foot fountain. Zigzags all the way through and goes out and goes away from everyone and anchors down and starts scalloping.
Using the snorkels as pylons.
I mean, it's and like I said, there's been more FWC presence. The problem is they're getting out there later in the day. When most people's already settled down, anchored down, and they're out there scalping. They're not seeing a lot of these idiots what they're doing. It's gotten to the point that if there's not a crowd of boats that I can get in the middle of, I don't even know if I want to be there. It's that dangerous. It's
Well, they're gonna have to write some tickets to back that down. They will have to write. I'm not saying they're not, but they'll have to write some more to back that down.
hey, I'll give you a good one. I was coming in. What day was it? 4th of July, I think it was. Yeah. No, it was the 5th. Anyways, I was coming in. Yeah, it was the 5th. I was coming in. Game wardens are sitting there right at the end of the pier.
They're one of their favorite spots.
Right. And they pulled me, and they checked my license, checked the fish. And anyways, I was leaving. We talked a little bit. I went to leave. A boat passes by me, says, "How bad was it?" I said, "No, they just checked my fish, checked my license, said, have a nice evening." I turn around and look, and this guy turns right by me. They were right there right where you turn the pier. He gets right beside them and guns it. So you know what happened next? Blue lights come on, and they go after him.
Hey, takes all kinds.
Steve Black said, "Sailcats, I could guide them all day." Yeah, but that's
8-hour trip.
Yeah, I took 8-hour trips off my website.
You're done.
I'm done.
No matter whether it's hot or cold.
I might stay out there 8 hours when it's cold.
You don't need 8 hours.
No, I don't need it.
You don't need it.
No.
People think they need to be out there for 8 hours, and they just don't realize that we have 6-hour tides. That's why I set up on 6 hours. Whether you want to fish a rise or fall, you don't need more than 6 hours. If you want to fish half and half, you don't need more than 6 hours. You can fish 6 hours of flop and 6 hours of incoming, or you can fish 6 hours of incoming 3 hours of incoming and 3 hours of flop. You don't need 8 hours on a 6-hour tide.
No.
And the best of it is the second half of the incoming and the first half of the fall. Write it down and remember it. You don't. It ain't rocket science. That's why you and I are so good at it.
Honestly, I'll leave the dock in the summertime. I'll leave the dock at 11 o'clock if the tide's right. I don't care if it's hot.
I fish the tide, incoming tide. That's 6 hours, and it doesn't let me down. The only time you'll beat me on a fall is when you plug fishing in Thanksgiving to New Year's. When the water gets below 55 degrees, the afternoon bite on the fall is better because those fish have gotten cold, and that warm water turns them on when it starts back out. The rest of the year, fish the incoming.
Yeah.
I don't. You can imagine how hot that water is coming out of those creeks. And stained like it is, it's hotter.
Oh yeah.
Because stained water is always warmer because the particles pick up the radiant light and hold that heat, and that water gets hotter and hotter. That's why your crew, didn't you tell me you had a scalloping crew that you took in shallow? They got in the water and they all got back in the boat and said, "Oh yeah, we want to go somewhere else."
It was 93 degrees. They wanted to go in shallow. I said, "It's hot."
And they thought they wanted some until they got in there.
Yeah, we got in there and they got in. I'm telling you, it wasn't 5 minutes, was it, Brandy? Yeah, not even 5 minutes. They said, "We got to go somewhere else. This will take your breath away." So this morning we got in. When I first got out there, when the storm let up, when we first got out there, we were so shallow my bottom machine wouldn't read.
That's shallow for his boat, folks. He's got that micro draft that'll float in 10 inches of water.
About 6, 5. They say 5, but I put that 150 on. It's about 6. And but we the guy says we got enough water. I said, "Well, it's coming in." And we got out, and it was nice actually, because I was wet riding the boat. It just kind of chilly. Got in the water. It was 80, 84 degrees. But a week ago, or 3 days ago, that would have been 93, 94 where we were at.
It'll get right back up there if we don't keep having a little bit of rain.
Yeah.
But one of the things I like to do in this time of year is fish the draw or the draft in front of the storms.
Yep.
When you've got one of those big heads come up, and especially in the afternoon, you move over there in front of it. You'll have the breeze will usually be that draw, and it'll turn the fish on. They'll feed.
The Homerville crew. That's what happened there. I told them when we started out, I said, hey, we're gonna go get our reds real quick, and we did. We got our 4 redfish, and we got out to where the trout were, and it was slick, and we caught some. I mean, we caught. I think the first drift we caught 3. Then that storm kept getting closer and closer, and the bite was on. I mean, it was bam, 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 just putting them in the box just as quick as we could. And finally, I said, "Look, guys, we got a decision to make. We're going to get wet or we're going to go in." And they said, "We got plenty of fish. Let's go."
There you go.
Mike King says, "Same offshore. Love the incoming tide. Crumb mangoes on a dead tide." Hey, Eddie. He said, "Hey, y'all, love your show. We appreciate the support, Eddie, and everyone else."
Thank you.
Let's see if I missed any questions or anything. But yeah, what do you anticipate for the next month? About the same, right?
Hot, getting hotter. No, I think that the main thing will be the grass. The key is to have an area to fish between the grass, and you have to have enough breeze to push that grass into rafts or piles. They're actually not piles; they're long strips, so you can fish. And sometimes people say, "Well, you catch them because of the shade." And I said, "No, I throw where the grass isn't, so I can pop the cork and get the bait to work. And if I'm throwing a grub, I got to bounce it. So you can't fish the shade. This isn't bass fishing, but the clear areas of where I'm catching my fish is in between the grass strips for the practicality of it. But also the fish are not interested in the shade. They're interested in seeing the food.
Yeah, and that's a question I get a lot is, are you fishing the big grass mats for shade?
Yeah. If we had cobia, and if there wasn't that much grass floating out there, years ago when you found one as big as this building here, you could find a cobia around it. But now it'd be like fishing 100-mile trap line for dang triple tail. You don't know which spot to pick because there's so much of it.
Yep.
But I mean, I have seen it days where you had bait when we had schools of bait, and they would get on the edge of that, and you could catch fish on the edge of one, but it would be rare, and you wouldn't have bait for a block. You'd have it, you'd have maybe 20, 30 yards of bait running on one stretch, and you catch those fish because of it, but you'd have everything mixed in there. You might have Spanish, ladyfish, trout, everything working that bait. But
speaking of Spanish, have you caught any lately?
No, I hadn't seen the Spanish in
2 months.
We caught some in around Memorial Day. What's that? May, June, July? Yeah. We caught them in May. Caught some before that too, bouncing out there with blackfish, but that was when there were schools of bait out there.
Right.
The first flushes of bait we had in May.
Have you seen any white bait?
I saw it in the canals 2 weeks ago, and then I had it. I went over 3 schools of the 4. I drove over them when I saw them yesterday morning. Or not morning. It was middle of the day. One was ballyhoo and 2 were white. 2 were white bait. The other school I didn't get close enough to see. But I drove another 10 miles and didn't see another school bait.
Yep.
There ain't much out there. There might be some.
Last year that area we fished. There was a lot. There was some
stayed there.
There was some big mats of floating grass, and they stayed around them. But
And there was enough bait that they got flushed by that dark water that they stayed there for 6 to 8 weeks.
So Michael A. Man says, "Have y'all seen any grass look like it was blooming, almost looked like jellyfish? I saw some in a few areas a couple weekends ago."
Yes, that I call that the green snot balls, those broccoli balls or whatever you want to call it. I saw a little bit of that, Mike, but it was just in one little hump. And when I slid off into deeper water, I hated to see it because when it gets bad, you can't even move a hook through it. But I didn't see it back out in that clear water.
And then he said saw some Spanish in close the other day hitting some bait with some jacks. He just told me where he was fishing at, so he doesn't realize it. You ain't got to worry. I'm not going there.
Well, yeah, when the bait will bring them in there. I've caught them in a foot of water, right up on the bars. When the bait's there, the Spanish don't care. They'll just follow them anywhere. But no, we hadn't even had any cutoffs from them.
No,
It's rare for me to lose a rig.
I haven't even caught. I think even throwing pinfish or cut pinfish, I think I've caught one Atlantic sharp-nosed shark in the last month.
I've been averaging about one a trip. I didn't see one yesterday, but I saw that bigger shark that was about 6 feet that hit that 18 and a half 4 times, and me and the trout got away from. I helped the trout get away from the shark, but and landed him, but um, I hadn't seen many.
No.
Usually the third week of June or the week of July 4th, they would come into Doghead by the hundreds, if not thousands, and spawn. And not this year. I hadn't seen them. But again, they got to have food.
Yeah.
The females would have to have enough food to have their eggs ready to spawn. So I don't know where they are. They're probably just out in deeper water. But usually we lose, a trout or two a trip in July and August to them. Just not happening.
Yeah, it's definitely not. Willard said, "Apologies, but where are you guys located?" We are in Keaton Beach, Florida, Big Bend, Florida. I this year I haven't much, but typically this time of year I'm fishing anywhere from Swanee, Cedar Key area over to
Right.
Ecofina.
Well,
But
what's his name?
Willard.
Willard. This is Taylor County, and it's bordered by Steinhatchee River on the south is our southern border, and Osceola River to the north. And Kenny and I fish out of Keaton Beach, which does not have a river or a creek or anything, and we fish both directions, but not specifically, not that far. It's 24 miles. We have 47 miles of coastline in Taylor County, and we're fishing basically the middle 20 miles, 10 to either side. So we don't quite make it to Steinhatchee. That's a 14-mile run.
And I have, but
yeah, but we don't
typically.
normally we don't. And then when we fish back up the other way, really Rock Island is our northern border. Now again, we can and have been further, but
oh yeah,
that's a 16-mile run. So we're fishing from about 25 miles of the middle of the Taylor County coast, and Taylor County is the county seat is Perry, and you'll find it on the map between Jacksonville and Tallahassee.
Yeah, and I said fishing's been good. The evening, I've tried fish a couple of evenings just because that's what people want to do, and it's definitely not as productive.
Pure dark or just late?
Late, but it's been that outgoing tide, like you talked about earlier. So Terry Grigg says, "What tide did you say you fish around Thanksgiving?" Any tide.
Yeah. If it's Thanksgiving, you can catch them fishing with the reel upside down behind you. But in answer, it's the water temperature. If that water has gotten down below 55, you definitely want to fish an afternoon where you have an afternoon high between 1 and 3, and that water then you want that water to fall out, and as that water's coming out, that water will all be warmer, and your bite will happen in 2 to 4 feet of water, and it can be outstanding. But that's Thanksgiving. Now Thanksgiving, I'll be out in 8 to 12 feet of water catching blackfish, and then go in there maybe with the last hour of the tide and go in there and either throw plugs or plastic and catch trout for an hour. It'll be just every cast when it's right.
Oh yeah.
But Thanksgiving is probably one of our sweetest periods of time. From Thanksgiving to Christmas, used to be a well kept secret down here. Now it's pretty well scattered. I mean, everybody knows it, but that's a great time of the year to be here.
Speaking of Thanksgiving, I don't have it pulled up. Anyways, I don't think I have many days left. I don't know what. Oh, there it is. Okay, I don't have my calendar set on here. I'm gonna have to do that. But yeah, if I remember right, I'm booked the weekend before. I know I'm booked the 22nd through the 24th, and I believe I'm booked the 16th to the 19th right now. So
I'm booked the previous weekend, Friday, Saturday. Then I'm booked the Friday, Saturday, Sunday of Thanksgiving, and I don't know a couple of earlier first week bookings, but I know I've got plenty of dates in November if he was interested.
Yeah.
Give either one of us a call. We'd love to take you in November. That's some fun fishing.
Oh yeah.
Because you can use anything, any type of artificial and live cut, synthetic bait, doesn't matter. One of the, you find them on one thing, change deliberately just to prove it. You catch them on the other, then change again and catch them on the third choice. So that's when it's fun for Kenny and I, as well as for our clients, because you can play. You can literally play and catch fish.
Oh yeah.
And that's probably as fun a time as we have. April used to be April, I'd say probably March now, but April and November are my two favorite trout.
Yeah, I'd have to say March is definitely my preference over April the last few years.
Yeah, it started getting the right temperature. March is the new April, as they say.
Yeah, and about mid October when the redfish really start turning on. But even the last couple of years, it's been a little later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, October used to be an outstanding month, and now it's a hit or miss game. Those fish will be moving in instead of already there, and they used to be inshore by then and in shallow water, but now it's kind of shifted into December.
Yeah, September I'll probably start fishing the southern part of the Big Bend area is what I typically do in September. I don't know if I will this year. I didn't have to last year. I stayed on them pretty good here.
Right.
But the 3 years before that, September was tough here. Michael Aman says April this year sure wasn't one of our typical ones like we usually have. Neither was last year.
No, I didn't. I don't think I threw plugs 3 trips, and it was over. I mean, it was just not there. The plug fishing just didn't happen, and the grass jumped in there so quick. But the water temperatures they took off. They took off, and if you look at Kenny keeps a written, or maybe on your online, maybe he keeps his own. What am I trying to say? You keep your archives, your records,
yep.
And if you look at the water temperature for the last 3 years, it's just shaving off all of the 70s that we love to fish for plugs, and there just wasn't any 70s. We went from 75 to 85 in 10 days, if I remember right. It's just skyrocketed, boom, and it was over. And those fish, and the bait wouldn't come in because the water got so high. So we don't have the spring fishing. It's not nearly what it used to be, what I used to look forward to, and now I look forward to November through Christmas.
Yep. Yeah, I told someone they typically come in April, and they'll typically fish with me 2 or 3 days, and then they bring their own boat from South Carolina, and they'll fish, the other 4 days on their boat, and we'll kind of mix it up, in between. But anyways, they want to listen to me this year. They want them to come back in April. I said, look, be here in March. And anyways, so they bounced around with. They ended up having we got on some fish towards the end of their week. But anyways, I told them this year, I said, come in December. You want to catch the fish you're looking for, be here in December.
Yeah. Right.
Steve Black says, when may we start to see a break in the water temperature? October. Yeah.
You don't have to think about it. It's going to be hot right through October. See, the third week of September for 20 years down here was one of my favorite times, because those fish would suddenly go, hey, it was cool last night. We need to move. And they would shift and bunch up. And you could have, and this would be, the last week of September. It would be outstanding. Now, that's not going to happen till the end of till Halloween.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's pretty much week of Halloween, which is 31st. But hey, it's amazing what kind of fishing. But I can remember before I got in the guide business in '90, in the '80s, I came down one time and my guys from Columbus, Georgia said, what are all these boats doing? I said, they're scalloping. And it was Memorial Day weekend or the weekend before it or whatever. And we were catching fish, drifting in between people snorkeling. We were catching fish. I said, wait till we get past that girl. Then they throw out, we're catching them. And we were trout fishing right down in front of Grassy inside of 60, 70 boats. And I didn't have any more sense than to go somewhere else. But we caught our fish right there with all the scallopers. And they would look at us like, what are you crazy people from Georgia doing here?
Jay Carson, he just chimed in and said fall is the new spring.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have to have the northeasters to make it so, to clear the grass out.
Yeah.
So we can fish.
Yeah. But
yeah, if we could get northeast winds blowing in March and April, like it used to, that would be helpful.
Yeah, maybe we can get Jay to come back on.
Jay, are you catching any dang tarpon, or are you trying to?
He will let us know in a couple of months.
Okay. In other words, we're gonna get that information 6 weeks of cold.
Maybe.
Okay. Maybe if he feels like it.
Maybe.
All right. Well, I thought maybe he wanted to promote himself as the tarpon king. But I do hope you're having some good trips.
Well, his picture right there is. I see one.
I can't see that far. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, and he doesn't use a carcass off the dock.
A carcass?
Yeah, I'll tell you later. He said no tarpon in Keaton.
Okay.
Steinhatchee River.
All right.
All right. Well, I don't think I'm fishing tomorrow, but I am Thursday. But I got some work to get caught up on when I leave here. But I do want to thank Stephanie as usual for allowing us to use the Trading Post.
Here at the Trading Post.
And great products. Of course, you can see all the spices and sauce behind us. And
so you don't think that I'm making it up? Can you read that, folks?
And here's the answer to that.
And his cousin. Oh,
see that one?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, here we go.
Oh shit! No shit. Okay.
And if you need some hot,
there you go. Well,
and also check out Keaton Beach Vacation Rentals. Keaton Beach Trading Post, Keaton Beach Vacation Rentals, and if you're in the area, Jared at the corner store, Keaton Beach Bums. He's got everything you need from food, drinks, ice, bait, tackle,
shrimp, everything.
Everything. Eric Ferguson and Kenny, let's go run some dogs. Actually, my boys, my two boys are out training some dogs right now. They're probably just not getting home. But we will see you guys next month. I will post the date probably this week. I'll get it figured out and get that posted. So we appreciate y'all for tuning in.